from clickorlando.com and WKMG. We're getting results in your neighborhood now at 11 p.m. Rescued from chest-deep water in DeLand.
We're coming to you. Be careful.
A boy found floating on debris plucked from the water in Tampa.
Grab him.
And a boater rescued from a cooler floating in the Gulf.
It was the most frightening thing I've ever lived through.
About a third of our roof got ripped off last night.
A look at the worst flooding and damage in Central Florida and across the state.
See what we're going to do, because we can't stay here.
Tonight, the race to get the power back on for millions of Floridians.
In terms of our assessments and being able to bounce back, I feel confident we're going to do that as a state.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Matt Austin.
And I'm Ginger Gadsden. Hurricane Milton is long gone, but the threat is far from over, especially for people living along some of our local rivers. Tonight, the Little Wekiva River in Seminole County has reached major flood stage in Altamont Springs, where that water has now gone into neighborhoods. Meantime, we're closely keeping an eye on the water levels in the St. Johns River. The river is set to crest on Monday.
News 6's Treasure Roberts is in DeLand near the St. Johns River tonight. So Treasure, neighborhoods in DeLand already dealing with serious flooding.
Yeah, they are, Matt and Ginger. The water is so high in this DeLand neighborhood that it almost surpasses this mailbox. And to give you some perspective about how deep this water could be, a typical residential mailbox is about 3 to 4 feet tall. So this road is absolutely impassable. DeLand police officers and firefighters had their hands full Thursday after Hurricane Milton barreled through the East Coast and out into the Atlantic. Neighborhoods like this one saw major flooding. Yeah, and after I talked to him, he told me that he actually couldn't even get back through that road because the water continued to rise, as it will in certain communities over the next few days. And as for here in DeLand, I can tell that this road, this water is a bit deceiving, because if you take a look at this fence over here, it looks like it's slanted. So that tells me that there's somewhat of a dip or a divot in this road. Absolutely not floodwaters you should try to walk through or drive through. There also is a Volusia County curfew until 5 a.m. Friday morning. In Volusia County, Treasure Roberts getting results, News 6.
Yeah, looking really dangerous out there. Treasure, thank you.
It's probably a 4-foot-tall fence there. Meteorologist Jonathan Kegis joins us now to talk more about these rising water levels. This is the story in the coming days.
It is, yeah, and it's going to get worse, unfortunately, for a lot of our friends along the St. Johns. We've already crested on the Little Wekiva River bad enough in major flood stage. We've already seen some of how high the water has gotten into there. Already crested just about a major flood stage in Astor, but for elsewhere downstream, we'll take a look at some of those river levels again as the St. Johns will continue to come up. We'll start with Lake Harney, or just above Lake Harney on the St. Johns, and right now we're approaching minor flood stage. So again, this is just getting underway for us, and it's going to get progressively higher. So you do still have some time to protect your homes if you're living in this area. Again, likely going to crest within about 2 feet of that record Ian flood stage from a couple of years ago. Just to give you some perspective of how high this is going to come. Again, by the time we get into Sunday, 2 o'clock into the afternoon, that's whenever we touch major flood stage. Again, we're watching rivers all over Central Florida. We're going to talk much more about the rainfall potential. At least there's a positive on that front, guys, coming up in about 10 minutes.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you. From Port Orange, where the flooding was so bad in areas, people are actually using boats to get around on the roads. You can see, looks pretty deep there in those neighborhoods, scary for neighbors. Meantime, homes and businesses in Daytona Beach shores were rocked by strong winds.
Yeah, News 6's Molly Reed was there today.
Dozens of businesses, homes, and other structures sustained incredible wind damage from the storm last night. A lot of it pretty obvious, like this gas station here with its roof flipped over along A1A here in Daytona Beach shores. Or this site in Wilbur by the Sea, what was a carport found mangled around snapped telephone poles in the middle of A1A.
A reminder, Volusia County is under a county-wide curfew until 5 in the morning. You could face a fine of up to $500 and or up to 60 days in jail if you are found in violation.
Well, we've gotten some calls from viewers who lost power during Milton, and they're understandably wanting an update. Crews have been working hard all day today to try to restore some normalcy after Hurricane Milton impacts were felt across the state. Duke Energy sent us these images of linemen replacing a main line in southeast Orlando earlier today. Taking a look at the current outages across Florida. Around 2 million people are still without power tonight. That's in all of Florida. The darker red, the worse off it is. You can see many of the western counties are in that dark red with a lot of impact when it comes to power outages.
Yeah, a lot of people still in the dark tonight, and hopefully that will change in the coming days because we seem to be a little ahead of the curve when it comes to that because of the crews, the linemen who were staged before the storm even hit.
And those days without AC and hot water.
The good thing, the weather's going to be nice in the coming days. A heads up for you, if you are dealing with a power outage, there are 4 ways to report it on Duke's website.
Well, we are still monitoring all the local impacts from Hurricane Milton.
Coming up after the break, we're going to Orange County, where we caught people walking and even boating through waist-deep waters on their streets. An update on that is next. Jonathan.
Still a couple of downpours out there, courtesy of what's left of Milton. That is way far away from us, but that easterly breeze as a result of the storm, pumping in some extra moisture. We're going to pinpoint where these are headed and talk about the week ahead. Ginger mentioned it. At least it's going to be a little more tolerable. We're going to break that down in a few minutes.
And a crane, no match for Milton's ferocious winds. We'll tell you where it collapsed and why it wasn't taken down before the storm. A bit puzzling there. You're watching News 6 at 11. Live on a Thursday night, we are getting results for Fruitland Park, Thornton Park, and all of Central Florida.
This portion of the news is sponsored by Rubenstein Law.
Now at 11, the vote counting is winding down in Florida, but we could be in for a long night and a long way from knowing who wins the race for the White House.
But president is only one of the many races up for grabs in our area tonight. We're touching base with the elections workers who make sure your ballots count. Thank you for joining us this evening on Election Night. I'm Matt Austin.
And I'm Ginger Gadsden. Our entire News 6 team of reporters, photojournalists, and digital journalists have fanned out to bring you comprehensive coverage of the races that matter on air and even more in-depth on clickorlando.com and our News 6 Plus Smart TV app.
Now, here in our studio, News 6 anchor Justin Warmoth is manning the big board, breaking down the results down to the neighborhood when needed, and News 6 political analyst Dr. Jim Clark is on hand to bring his perspective to the trends we are seeing. We'll check in with them in a bit. All election results are scrolling at the bottom of your screen. These numbers are constantly updating.
But let's start with the numbers of some of the really big races tonight. National total for the presidential race, how Florida is voting in the presidential race, and there it is, 56% for former President Donald Trump and 43% for Vice President Kamala Harris.
All right, let's take a look at the big Senate race between Rick Scott and Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. Rick Scott won this handedly with 56% of the vote, a 13-point win for one of the biggest of his career in politics. Former Ninth Circuit Court State Attorney Monique Worrell, she has defeated current State Attorney Andrew Bain. Now remember, this one's got a story behind it. Governor Ron DeSantis removed Worrell from office, replaced her with Bain. Worrell spoke just moments ago.
To know that after all of the lies that have been told and the $2.5 million that was spent to turn you against me, you said no.
And Kamala Harris didn't spend a lick of time here. She knew the outcome of what this was likely to be. But still, you look at these numbers, and it certainly is shocking to a lot of people who have lived in the state for a long period of time. The days of the I-4 corridor being a thing, no more. Guys, back to you.
All right, fascinating night on the political front. Justin Warmoth, thank you very much. Well, there were a lot of amendments that could have changed the state constitution, but 2 in particular were the most controversial, and both of them failed.
Yeah, and they were big ones, too. A lot of money spent on both sides of both of these amendments. First, we're talking about Amendment 3. This is recreational marijuana. It needed 60%, but it got 56% of the vote. 56% of Floridians said they wanted it. 44% voted no. Now, the constitutional amendment to protect abortion rights in Florida has also failed. This was Amendment 4. And also another big one, getting 57%. That seems to be the ceiling for the two amendments that failed tonight, 57%. News 6's Donovan Myrie is gathering reaction to the vote on Amendment 4. He is live in Orlando. So, Donovan, this cannot be great news for them, and they have to be feeling rather dejected. What are you hearing out there tonight?
Yeah, Ginger, it's a combination of, elation on one side and dejection, as you said, on another side. And those numbers you talked about, that kind of just under 60%, we're going to talk about those in a second. But basically, with that threshold of 60%, you are not looking at a 50% plus one majority, it's 60%. Both sides knew this was going to be a challenge to get this thing passed.
This was an uphill battle for both sides.
It absolutely was. It makes me feel good to know that our state turned down such a deceptive and extreme amendment, and we did so almost knowing exactly what was in it. The Yes campaign spent $110 million not talking about what their amendment would do, so it was our job to tell the voters just how extreme this was.
We will not allow this moment to overshadow each and every one of our efforts. We will continue to push forward because we had no choice but to. Because 84,000 patients depend on every last one of you in this room.
And Matt and Ginger, it really came down to not enough Floridians voted to get this over the finish line. And I want to just make sure I get this right. 4 states had previously passed similar ballot measures. Only one, Vermont, passed that 60% margin. They did it in 2022 with a 76.9% voter approval. Back to you guys.
That is a state that votes much differently than Florida is in 2024. Sure. Donovan Myrie live for us. Thank you.
Now, that marijuana amendment has been one of the most controversial on that list. News 6 investigator Mike DeForest joins us now live with the latest on that one. Mike.
Yep, Amendment 3 that would have legalized marijuana for recreational use here in Florida has also gone down in defeat. That means here in the state, nothing changes. It stays the way exactly it was before, which is that only folks with prescription for medical marijuana can get marijuana product legally from dispensaries like this True Leave here in Orlando. Speaking of True Leave, that corporation spearheaded Amendment 3.
So many important races here. I know everybody's looking at the top of the ticket, Jim, and that one was called a while ago. But we've had some local races that have really had a big impact here in Florida.
Yeah, I think so. And as Justin pointed out, Orange County has become this island of blue.
One of the bluest counties in Florida.
And remember 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, we stood here and talked about how the I-4 corridor was the key to carrying Florida, and that's gone.
It's all red.
Yeah, it's all red, but it's also not important anymore. South Florida has become much more important than the old I-4 corridor. So
yeah, all that red is just a traffic jam now on I-4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a huge night for Republicans. There are very few things they can point to in the Democratic Party with any kind of pride. I would guess that there will be calls for Nikki Fried, the chair of the Democratic Party, to step down after this. This is a debacle.
It is, but the Democrats really, and Republicans either, nobody really put a ton of money. There was a lot of money in ads for amendments and that sort of thing, but as far as these big Senate and presidential races, they kind of knew Florida was in the bag for Republicans from the jump, right?
Yeah, but the Democrats couldn't seem to do it anywhere. They were hopeful in Orange County to pick up a couple of seats. They may have picked up one, but that's within 200 votes right now, with some votes still to be counted. Just a week ago, they were talking about, hey, maybe Rick Scott we can defeat. We can flip that seat. And they didn't even come close.
Normally, he wins by the thinnest of margins. Tonight, he opened up like a 13-point lead. Do you think that has to do, a lot to do with the million new active registered voters who have come here to Florida?
Yeah, you cannot overcome a million registered Republicans. And we saw the change in the switch where Trump got tremendous amounts more than he did 4 years ago, and Harris lost about 300,000 votes that Biden got 4 years ago. So it was a switch of about 1 million votes in Florida from the Republican from the Democrat to the Republican.
And in some places you might not have expected. Miami-Dade, not just close, but Donald Trump flipped that thing.
This is going to be a historic election, and that's why I think the Democrats are going to have to figure something out and regroup. Remember, 6 years ago, Bill Nelson, the Democrat, came within 10,000 votes.
Yeah.
Andrew Gillum, 6 years ago, came within 30,000 votes of being elected governor out of millions cast, and now the party is just in total disarray.
Yeah, it's time for a reset, and I think they'll be doing some a lot of meetings coming up. And
so it could be an opening for the chair of the Democratic Party if you want to fill out an application.
Thank you,
Jim. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Hey, more election results are coming this half hour, including key races at the bottom of your screen.
And then it's the big decisions for Orange County voters, including on whether to keep rural areas rural.
You're watching News 6 at 11, live on a Tuesday night, election night. We're getting results for Indy Atlantic, Lockhart, and all of Central Florida.
This portion of the news is sponsored by Rubenstein Law.
Coverage moves south now from Daytona Beach shores to Wilbur by the Sea. We have been seeing dramatic video of homes hanging over the edge there. Drone video shows the extent of the damage, too. You can see parts of homes just scattered along the beach. And today, we spotted Governor DeSantis in this area. He was surveying the damage and talking to people who have lost their homes. News 6's Mike DeForest is live out there for us tonight. Mike, the governor had a ton to look at out there.
Matt, we are right in the area where the governor was touring earlier today. In fact, he was checking out this home right behind me. You may not be able to tell from where we're at. That's the swimming pool in the backyard. Part of it is still in place, kind of. The rest of the swimming pool down on the beach. And it's a similar scene that we're seeing up and down the coast out here. From the front yard, you might think these homes survived Hurricane Nicole, but from the beach side, the destruction is overwhelming. Storm surge chewed apart the foundation of many of these properties, causing parts of some homes to collapse onto the beach and leaving others teetering on the edge.
These people's houses, this guy's pools over here on the ocean, it's very tragic.
Terry Baggett, whose home in Flagler Beach survived Hurricane Nicole, brought his drone down to Wilbur by the Sea to get an aerial look at the extensive damage here. At the same time, representatives from the Red Cross are doing their own damage assessment while providing food and shelter to those who need it.
It's going to be interesting because I think we have a large number of vacation homes. We have large condo buildings that are, partially permanent residences. Some are vacation homes, and so some of it is going to be determining, really what the permanent long-term solutions are for individual people.
As construction crews begin trying to figure out how to protect these houses from further damage, sheriff's deputies are on the lookout for guys like Joshua Bowie, who they say they caught trying to loot a home across the street.
If you think you're going to come over here and take advantage of the situation, you're going to go to jail. There are plainclothes officers out here. There is uniform marked deputies. We're stopping every car that comes in and out. I know some people aren't happy with that, but I have to secure this area.
The sheriff and his deputies also reminding people out here who've come to take a look at this damage, just keep a safe distance away from these homes. It is a little past low tide right now, so plenty of room on the beach. But as high tide approaches pretty close to 10 o'clock tonight, I think that water is going to be lapping up close to these homes again, and many fear that we could see even more of these structures come crumbling down depending on how that water hits. Reporting live in Wilbur by the Sea, Mike DeForest, News 6. Back to you.
Now at 11, what the heck happened here? That is the question people are asking tonight about their hometown bank in Orange County. That is suddenly, you see here, destroyed and closed, at least for now. Also tonight.
I think they have the power to do it again.
The hits just keep on coming for our Lake Mary Little League All-Stars. This time the boys and the girls. A lot of action on the diamond to get to tonight as they are both headed for, it looks like, the World Series. Good evening to you. I'm Eric Von Anken. So glad you're with us on this Sunday night. We start with that situation at the bank in South Orlando that is puzzling lots of folks. What actually happened there and how? Here's what we know. The roof of the drive-thru at the Truist Bank on Orange Blossom Trail and Waterbridge Boulevard collapsed. This is not far from SeaWorld, so we sent News 6's Jarrell Baker there to look into this. Jarrell, this seemed to happen out of nowhere. What did you see when you were out there?
Well, I tell you, Eric, I walked around this side, on the other side along OBT, and I can tell you, I'm just perplexed as everyone else out there. Now, several people were out there taking pictures and asking questions and just want to know what we know. What happened to the bank and what are they going to do to repair it?
Diana Gutierrez sees it, but still can't believe it.
I guess I have to go to a different bank at least for the next week.
Now, we did reach out to the bank for comment and ask to see what they plan to do if their operations will still be going on this week, but we did not hear back yet.
Jerome, we reported on a community center in Brevard County, folks will remember, about a week ago or so, where a terrible rainstorm, the roof collapsed. Today, no rain.
Yeah.
No wind.
No wind.
We also know that people occasionally like to steal money from banks or ATMs. What was the talk out there, at least? Any speculation?
Well, a lot of people are just saying that it may be some actual wear and tear. Maybe it's old, because a lot of people say that bank has been around there for a while.
Okay.
But a lot of people are, you would think that people would check for something like that. It's a mystery.
But banks are built so they don't fall down very easily with a lot of concrete.
It's not that market crash that you want to see right there.
Yeah, we will certainly be following this. Very interesting. Jerome Baker, good story. Thank you. We got a development in the tropics to tell you about tonight. They are heating up. Meteorologist Samara Kokinas is tracking this latest one for us. There are three out there. You got one in particular to talk about.
That's right. So the area that we saw off the Carolina coast that had a big time chance of developing.
Sure.
Well, it did. So let's take a look at that. That's Tropical Storm Dexter. As of tonight at 11, 45-mile-per-hour winds expected to continue to move to the east-northeast at about 12 miles per hour with 1,002 millibars of pressure. No immediate threats here to Central Florida, but we are anticipating some storms, so I'll be back to show you what time those storms kick off in just a few minutes. Eric?
Hoping these blobs stay blobs. Samara, we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you. Some breaking news tonight from Volusia County. Investigators looking for whoever pistol-whipped a teenager who was hanging out in a park, we're told. The Volusia County Sheriff's Office says this happened at around 7:45 tonight at a park near Lazio Circle and Kalen Street. This is in DeBarry we're talking about. Officials tell us that two 17-year-olds were approached by a man and two women. The male was hit in the head with a handgun, and then the person who did this ran off. Investigators are trying to figure out who the person is, why he hit these teenagers, or hit the one teenager in the first place. As soon as we find out more on this, of course, we'll let you know. Seminole County is quickly becoming a powerhouse on the Little League diamond, particularly in Lake Mary. The boys' baseball and girls' softball team won by a combined score of, get this, 23-2 today. So now Lake Mary Little League baseball team is just one win away from a second straight trip to Williamsport. News 6 is setting the agenda for your week ahead when it comes to what to watch for at your city hall. We're keeping a close eye on three key discussions set to happen across Central Florida this week. Starting in the morning. Leaders are set to make decisions on protecting our coastline, preventing new construction, and what to do if leaders want to remove an elected official. So we start with a key vote happening in Groveland tomorrow in Lake County. Councilwoman Judy Fike, we told you, was removed from her seat last month after the vice mayor, Barbara Gaines, brought up several tweets allegedly written by Fike that Gaines called, quote, hateful and racist. Well, then a judge stepped in and ordered Fike to return to her seat, saying neither the city charter nor its ethics policy allowed for the removal of the council person. So now Groveland wants that power to do that. City leaders passed an amendment to the city's charter last week, allowing for what they call a forfeiture of office hearing if there's a complaint that has been filed, expanding the city council's ability to remove elected officials from office. Last week's vote was the first for this amendment. It needs to pass now twice. If it's approved by the city council tomorrow, the amendment would then go up for a vote by Groveland residents on the general election ballot in the fall. Two big conversations are coming, one in Volusia County. Tomorrow, the Edgewater City Council will take up a vote on whether to appeal its building moratorium after a new state law. SB 180, we told you, was signed into law in June by Governor DeSantis, preventing local municipalities from blocking new construction. Well, that came on the heels of Edgewater's ban on new large-scale developments back in January. We talked with city officials about that issue a couple weeks ago. Despite the new law, they told us they plan to move forward with their building moratorium. Also at the Edgewater meeting tomorrow, city leaders will take on a second vote on banning e-bikes from public parks and sidewalks. If that is approved, riders could face fines as much as $500 per offense. It's not clear if that includes the first offense. If you'd like to speak about either issue, tomorrow's meeting begins at 6 p.m. in Council Chambers on Edgewater Drive in Volusia County. And just north of there in Flagler County, officials are going to be looking into new ways to fund beach renourishment projects. Leaders initially proposed a countywide across-the-board tax to put sand back on the beach, but now they're going to be looking at putting off or even ending some capital projects in order to free up money and use it for the beaches instead. Nearly $900,000 would go for beaches next year, $450,000 in 2027. Most of the time when I help people get results at home, I give you tips to do maintenance or something cosmetic. But tonight, we're talking about something that legitimately could prevent disaster at your house, a fire, dryer fires. I know you've heard of this. We reported on it. So how to clean out your dryer with one of those, a vacuum and a brush. We're getting results at home coming up.
10 injured in a mass shooting in downtown Orlando. 2 people are dead. The mayor has declared a state of emergency.
Honestly, I am frustrated to have to stand in front of you all and again share the news that we have lost another life due to gun violence.
Tonight, we're hearing from the victims.
He pulls out, just hand motion like that, very quickly. Boom! I just saw lights flash.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Matt Austin.
And I'm Lisa Bell. You're watching News 6 at 5. There will now be a curfew in effect in downtown Orlando. News 6 anchor Ginger Gadsden joins us now live from downtown Orlando. So, Ginger, walk us through what happened early this morning.
Yes, Matt and Lisa, it's still a lot of information to process as we are here just a little more than 12 hours after those first shots were fired last night, sending people scrambling to safety, and people are still in shock that something like this happened in downtown Orlando. And I'm talking about a lot of people down here last night. We're told between 50,000 and 100,000 people were out here simply doing what a lot of other people were doing across the country last night, just trying to enjoy Halloween celebration. So let's give you an idea of where I am, live in downtown Orlando at Orange and Central. That's where police say the first shot was fired. That happened around 1 this morning. And then more shots were fired near Washington Street and Orange Avenue. That's just a few blocks away from where I am. News 6's Catherine Silver has been covering this story from the very beginning today. She joins us now live from OPD headquarters. And Catherine, now that we know that the suspected 17-year-old shooter is behind bars, what's next in this investigation?
Well, Ginger, we heard from the chief of police late this afternoon, and he says his detectives are tracing this teen's every step. They have followed his path during what was a very short trip to the downtown area, and they say he walked by more than 10 police officers before he opened fire. What they still don't know is why this tragedy happened.
Orlando police body cameras captured the gunfire and then the takedown of a teen suspect right on Orange Avenue.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground right now!
And the suspect is now facing charges of first-degree murder and attempted murder. I did ask the chief if his detectives have been able to talk with this teen. I'm told he is not cooperating. For now, I'm live in Orlando. Catherine Silver, getting results. News 6.
Catherine, thank you for asking that question about what a 17-year-old was doing out here at that hour. That's the question we all want answered. Of course, we learned that 2 people died in this and 8 others were hurt, one of them even trampled. News 6's Stephanie Rodriguez joins us now from Orlando Regional Medical Center, with what she's learning there. Stephanie.
We met 20-year-old Anthony Berry here at the hospital, who was grazed by one of the bullets last night on his head, and he's in good spirits today despite being centimeters away from a very different outcome. I was able to speak with him, and he shared his experience from last night. He said he was out with his friends when he saw the alleged 17-year-old gunman acting aggressive in the huge crowd of people, and suddenly he saw him make a motion that appeared to be pulling out a gun, and that's when Berry ducked. He said everything happened really fast. He saw a white flash, and the next thing he knew, his head was bleeding. He tells me he's going to school to be an EMT, so he says he was prepared for something like this. So he instantly pressed a shirt on his head to stop the bleeding. Here at the hospital, he got stitches and staples on his wound, and his doctor says this could have been much worse.
First, I really had to kind of wake up a little more and say, is this really happening again? Once, it took like 5 seconds and you realize, okay, you're awake, this is happening. So, unfortunately, that experience kind of had me already knowing, kind of what to expect.
We also learned from the doctor that none of the other victims that arrived here at the hospital needed emergency surgery last night. The man who was pronounced dead here was in cardiac arrest when he arrived and had traumatic injuries. As for Berry, he's going to be here until at least tomorrow for continued monitoring. Reporting live in Orlando, Stephanie Rodriguez, Getting Results News 6.
That is just an incredible story, Stephanie. Centimeters from a different outcome. Were you able to ask him? I know he was at Pulse, and, that's a place where people went with their friends. Was he out with a lot of friends last night, and were they okay?
Yes, he was with several of his friends. He did tell us he was concerned for one of his other friends, but thankfully all of his friends are doing okay as well. So that's some good news for Berry.
Yeah, that is some great news. Stephanie Rodriguez reporting live for us at Orlando Regional Medical Center. Stephanie, thank you for that story. All right, so the main focus of lawmakers right now is making sure that what happened here in downtown Orlando never happens again. And News 6 has learned that the city is considering making some what people would consider pretty drastic changes. So here's what we're talking about. District 5 Commissioner Shan Rose tells News 6 the city could cordon off part of downtown Orlando and allow people to use just one single entry point. She said people would be scanned for weapons at that entry point, and their IDs would also be scanned. She said a decision on this is imminent. Now, News 6 investigator Eric Sandoval broke this story around noon today. He broke it on clickorlando.com. Eric joins us now live with more on that. Eric, what else are you learning?
Well, Ginger, the city of Orlando has been wrestling with this security issue here downtown for several years. We heard today from the mayor that they plan to cut off alcohol sales at midnight. A curfew will be in effect at 1 a.m. And now this proposal of a new security system from this commissioner. City leaders say they just don't want something like this to happen again.
It's my senior year. I wanted to have fun.
That's why Kayla Kissel says she and her friends dressed up and headed to downtown Orlando on Halloween night.
I started getting a bunch of messages from my friends who were like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? Downtown is just so large that you could literally file in through anywhere. And everybody last night was coming in from every which way.
Okay, so we asked Commissioner Rose, when is this new security protocol going to go into place? She said it is coming within days, if not a week at the latest. She said she's really trying to balance the small businesses that line downtown Orlando here with public safety. It's a tough balancing act. Ginger?
Yeah, tough indeed, Eric. I just am having a little bit of trouble trying to understand how that single entry point would work, because if I'm just coming out for dinner or drinks, I know it's not a ball game where I know I'm going to be scanned for weapons. How many people does she think will be willing to be scanned for weapons and have their IDs scanned?
That's a really good question. And, when they tried this process 2 years ago, there were 5 entry points. One of them was right behind me here at Central and Orange. I actually lived just about a block away, and firsthand I saw, it was a pretty steady stream of people. But if you reduce that to just one entry point on any given weekend, let alone on a big event like Halloween, I can only guess it would be a juggernaut. Ginger?
Yeah, that's what I'm imagining, trying to screen 50,000 to 100,000 people from one single entry point. Eric Sandoval, great on breaking that story today on clickorlando.com. Matt and Lisa, as I send it back to you guys in the studio, people just want answers. They want to make sure that their families are safe coming down. You know,